God will walk with me down the streets where no one else will walk. God will talk with me of things that no one else will talk. Where no one else will walk and no one else will talk. When no one will, God will. God will share with me the little worries no one else knows are there. God will care for me whenever there's no one else to care. Where no one else will be there and no one else will share. Where no one will, God will. God will think of me when friends forget and fail to understand. God will strengthen me when I am weak and need a helping hand. Where no one understands or lends a helping hand. When no one will, God will. When no one will, God will. Hello and welcome to the Bible with Briscoe. I will be your narrator, Shenandoah Briscoe, and we were going to get through this Bible in 1 year. Today is day 66, and we'll be covering Deuteronomy 3 through 4, and Mark 10:32 through 52. Father, I just ask for purity in voice and articulation, so that this translation may be a blessing for you and all of those who are listening. In Jesus' mighty name, amen. And they all said, amen. Defeat of Og, king of Bashan. Deuteronomy 3. Next we turned and went up along the road toward Bashan. And Og, king of Bashan, with his whole army, marched out to meet us in a battle at Edrei. The Lord said to me, Do not be afraid of him, for I have delivered him into your hands, along with his whole army and his land. Do to him what you did to Sihon, king of the Amorites, who reigned in Heshbon. So the Lord our God also gave into our hands Og, king of Bashan, and all his army. We struck them down, leaving no survivors. At that time we took all his cities. There was no one of the 60 cities that we did not take from them. The whole region of Argob, Og's kingdom in Bashan. All the cities were fortified with high walls and with gates and bars, and there were also a great many unwalled villages. We completely destroyed them as we had done with Sihon, king of Heshbon, destroying every city, men, women, and children. But all the livestock and plunder from these cities were carried off for ourselves. So at that time we took from these 2 kings of the Amorites the territory east of the Jordan, from the Aron Gorge as far as Mount Hermon. Hermon is Sirion by the Sidonites, and the Amorites call it Sinir. We took all the towns of the plateau, and all Galilee, and all Bashan, as far as Shalik and Edrei, towns of Og's kingdoms in Bashan. Og, king of Bashan, was the last of the Rephaites. His bed was decorated with iron and with more than 9 cubits long and 4 cubits wide. It is still in Rabbah of the Amorites. Division of the land. Of the land that we took over at that time, I gave the Reubenites and the Gadites the territory north of Arar by the Aran Gorge, including half the hill country of Galeed, together with its towns. The rest of the Galeed and also all of Bashan, the kingdom of Og, I gave to the half tribe of Manasseh. The whole region of Argob, Argob in Bashan used to be known as a land of the Rephites. Jair, a descendant of Manasseh, took the whole region of Argob as far as the border of the Geshurites and the Machanites. It was named after him, so that to this day Bashan is called Hava Jivar. And I gave Galilee to Machir, but the Reubenites and the Gadites I gave the territory extending from Galeed down to the Iron Gorge, the middle of the gorge being the border, and out of the Jabbok River, which is the border of the Ammonites. Its western border was the Jordan in the Arabah, from Kinnereth to the sea of the Aberith, that is the Dead Sea, below the slopes of Pisgah. I command you that at that time the Lord your God has given you this land to take possession of it, but all your able-bodied men armed for battle must cross over ahead of the other Israelites. However, your wives, your children, and your livestock, I know you have much livestock, may stay in the towns I have given you, until the Lord gives rest to your fellow Israelites, as he has to you. And they too have taken over the land that the Lord your God has given them across the Jordan. After that, each of you may go back to the possessions I have given you. Moses forbidden to cross the Jordan. At that time I commanded Joshua, you have seen with your own eyes at that all that the Lord your God has done to these two kings. The Lord will do the same to all the kingdoms over there where you are going. Do not be afraid of them. The Lord your God himself will fight for you. At that time I pleaded with the Lord, Sovereign Lord, you have begun to show to your servant your greatness and your strong hand. For what God is there in heaven or on earth who can do the deeds and mighty works that you do? Let me go over and see the good land beyond the Jordan, that fine hill country, and Lebanon. But because of you, the Lord was angry with me and would not listen to me. That is enough, the Lord said. Do not speak to me any more about this matter. Go up to the top of Phazog and look west and north and south and east. Look at the land with your own eyes, since you are not going to cross this Jordan, but commission Joshua and encourage and strengthen him, for he will lead this people across and will cause them to inherit the land you will see. So we stayed in the valley near Beth Peor. Obedience commanded. Deuteronomy 4. Now, Israel, hear the decrees and laws I am about to teach you. Follow them so that you may live and may go in and take possession of the land that the Lord, the God of your ancestors, is giving you. Do not add to what I command you, and do not subtract from it, but keep the commands of the Lord your God that I give you. You saw with your own eyes what the Lord did at Baalpor. The Lord your God destroyed from among you everyone who followed the Baal of Peor, but all of you who held fast to the Lord your God are still alive today. See, I have taught you decrees and laws as the Lord my God commanded me, so that you may follow them in the land you are entering, to take possession of it. Observe them carefully, for this will show your wisdom and understanding to the nations, who will hear about all these decrees and say, surely this great nation is a wise and upstanding people. Oh, and understanding people. What other nation is so great as to have their gods near them, the way the Lord our God is near us whenever we pray to him? And what other nation is so great to have such righteous decrees and laws as this body of laws I am setting before you today? Only be careful and watch yourselves closely, so that you do not forget the things your eyes have seen, or let them fade from your heart as long as you live. Teach them to your children and to their children after them. Remember the day you stood before the Lord your God at Horeb, when he said to me, assemble the people before me to hear my words, so that they may learn to revere me as long as they live in the land, and may teach them to their children. You came near and stood at the foot of the mountain while it blazed with fire to the very heavens, with black clouds and deep darkness. Then the Lord spoke to you out of the fire. You heard the sound of the words, but saw no form. There was only a voice. He declared to you his covenant, the 10 Commandments, which he commanded you to follow, and then wrote them on 2 stone tablets. And the Lord directed me at that time to teach you the decrees and laws that you are to follow in the land that you are crossing the Jordan to possess. Idolatry forbidden. You saw no form of any kind the day the Lord spoke to you at Horeb, out of the fire. Therefore watch yourselves very carefully, so that you do not become corrupt and make yourselves an idol, an image of any shape, whether formed like a man or a woman, or like any animal on earth, or any bird that flies in the air, or like any creature that moves along the ground, or any fish in the waters below. And when you look up to the skies and see the sun, the moon, and the stars, all the heavenly array, do not be enticed into bowing down to them and worshiping these things the Lord your God has apportioned to all the nations under heavens. But as far as you, the Lord took you and brought you out of the iron smelt furnaces out of Egypt, to be the people of his inheritance, as you now are. The Lord was angry with me because of you, and he has solemnly sworn that I would not cross the Jordan and enter the good land the Lord your God is giving you as your inheritance. I will die in this land. I will not cross the Jordan, but you are about to cross over and take possession of that good land. Be careful not to forget the covenant of the Lord your God that he made with you. Do not make yourselves any idol in the form of anything the Lord your God has forbidden. For your For the Lord your God is a consuming fire and a jealous God. After you've had children and grandchildren and have lived in the land a long time, if you then become corrupt and make any kind of idol, do evil in the eyes of the Lord your God, and arousing his anger, I call the heavens and the earth as witnesses against you this day that you will quickly perish from the land, and that you are crossing the Jordan to possess. You will not live there long, but will certainly be destroyed. The Lord will scatter you among the peoples, and only a few of you will survive among the nations to which the Lord will drive you. There you will worship man-made gods of wood and stone, which cannot see or hear or eat or smell. But if from there you seek the Lord your God, you will find him. If you speak, he will. If you speak, if you seek him with all your heart and with all your soul, when you are in distress and all these things have happened to you, then in later days you will return to the Lord your God and obey him. For the Lord your God is a merciful God, and he will not abandon or destroy you, or forget the covenant with your ancestors which he confirmed to them by oath. The Lord is God. Ask now about the former days, long before your time, from the day God created human beings on the earth. Ask from one end of the heavens to the other. Has anything so great as this ever happened, or has anything like it ever been heard of? Has any other people heard the voice of God speaking out of the fire as you have, and lived? Has any God ever tried to take for himself one nation out of another nation, by testing, by signs and wonders, by war, by a mighty hand and an outstretched arm, or by great and awesome deeds, like all of these the things the Lord your God did for you in Egypt before your eyes? You were shown these things so that you might know that the Lord is God. Besides him there is no other. And from heaven he made you hear his voice to discipline you. On earth he showed you his great fire, and you heard his words from out of the fire, because he loved you. And he loved your ancestors and chose their descendants after them. He brought you out of Egypt by his presence and his great strength, to drive out before you nations greater and stronger than you, and to bring you into their land, to give it to you for your inheritance as it is today. Acknowledge and take to heart this day the Lord is God in heaven above and on the earth below. There is no other. Keep his decrees and commands, which I am giving you today, so that it may go well with you and your children after you, that you may live long in the land that the Lord your God gives you for all time. Cities of refuge. Then Moses set aside 3 cities east of the Jordan, to which anyone who has killed a person could flee if they had unintentionally killed a neighbor without malice afterthought. They could flee into one of these cities and save their life. The cities were these: Bezir in the wilderness plateau for the Rebuttans, Ramoth in Galilee for the Gadites, and Galion in Bashan for the Mannonites, Massonites, Massonites. There we go. Introduction to the law. This is the law Moses set before the Israelites. These are the stipulations, decrees, and laws Moses gave them when they came out of Egypt and were in the valley near Beth Peor, east of the Jordan, in the land of Sihon, king of the Amorites, who reigned in Heshbon and was defeated by Moses and the Israelites as they came out of Egypt. They took possession of his land and the land of Og, king of Bashan, the 2 Amorite kings east of the Jordan. This land extended from Arnon unto the rim of the Arnon Gorge, to Mount Sharon, that is Hammeron, and included all the Abereth east of the Jordan, as far as the Dead Sea, below the slopes of Pisgah. That was Deuteronomy 3 through 4. Now we will continue with Mark 10:32 through 52. Jesus predicts his death a third time. They were on their way up to Jerusalem when Jesus leading the way, and the disciples were astonished, while those who followed were afraid. Again he took the 12 aside and told them what was going to happen to him. We are going up to Jerusalem, he said, and the Son of Man will be delivered over to the chief priests and the teachers of the law. They will condemn him to death, and will hand him over to the Gentiles, who will mock him and spit on him, flog him and kill him. 3 days later he will rise. The request of James and John. Then James and John, the sons of Zebedee, came to him. Teacher, they said, we want you to do for us whatever we ask. What do you want me to do for you? He asked. They replied, let us set at your right hand, and the other at your left in your glory. You do not know what you are asking, Jesus said. Can you drink the cup of drink or be baptized with the baptism I am baptized with? We can, they answered. Jesus said to them, you will drink the cup I drink and be baptized with the baptism I am baptized with. But to sit at my right or left hand is not for me to grant. These places belong to those for whom they have been prepared. When the 10 heard about this, they became indignant towards James and John. Jesus called them together and said, you know that those who are regarded as rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and their high officials exercise authority over them. Not so with you. Instead, whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant, and whoever wants to be first must be slaves to all. For even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many. Blind Bartimaeus receives his sight. Then they came to Jericho, and Jesus and his disciples, together with a large crowd, were leaving the city. A blind man, Bartimaeus, which means son of Timaeus, was sitting by the roadside begging. When he heard that it was Jesus of Nazareth, he began to shout, "Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me." Many rebuked him and told him to be quiet, but he shouted all the more, "Son of David, have mercy on me." Jesus stopped and said, "Call him." So they called the blind man. "Cheer up, on your feet, he's calling you." Throwing his cloak aside, he jumped to his feet and came to Jesus. "What do you want me to do for you?" Jesus asked him. The blind man said, "Rabbi, I want to see." God said, "Go," said Jesus. "Your faith has healed you." Immediately he received his sight and followed Jesus along the road. And that concludes the Bible with Briscoe for today. And so for tomorrow, we will be covering Deuteronomy 5 through 7 and Mark 11, 1 through 18. Father, I just ask that this was a blessing to you and to all of those that were listening in. And I also ask that they come back tomorrow and we can continue with the Bible with Briscoe. And in the meanwhile, have a blessed day in Jesus' mighty name. Amen. And they all said, Amen.